question that we're now seeing in Silicon Valley, and really on everyone's mind, how long do you think humans can live in the relatively near term? Let's say the next 10, 20 years. You hear about people downloading their brains, stem cells, all kinds of different things. 150 years, we see a lot of different estimates out there. What's your expert opinion on that?
I think life expectancy will increase by no more than 5 to 10 years in the next decade. I think some of that is that the technology is promising, but not that promising. And some of it is that we are killing ourselves because we are eating garbage. We are, our health behaviors are way worse than they ever were in the past. And we are causing the shortened life expectancy of our own species.
And I don't say this in a self-serving way for you, but I think it's interesting out there. I mean, you're absolutely world-renowned and an absolute expert in what you do. And a lot of times people, maybe a young medical student or even a young person who's just starting out, maybe you can sort of follow the trail that you followed. Why are you so good at what you do?
Because when something pisses me off, I don't let it go. I think that's, somebody earlier said, oh, I'm interacting with greatness. I'm like, no, you're interacting with persistence. This is the only way to be successful. I mean, this is generalizes to entrepreneurship as well, obviously. The only way to be successful is to believe so much in it that somebody's got to smack you in the head 10 times and you still will persist until you finally make it happen. And I think that that's exactly.
Right there, yeah.
And Hopkins is a wonderful environment from that, actually. One, because people slap you in the head all the time anyway, just because it's Hopkins. And two, because we are raised on that. We are raised on that persistence. Do not let people talk you out of your good idea.
I love that answer. What worries you in medicine? Is it, and I'll get to some other stuff for it. I'll just leave that, I have some other ideas later, but I'll leave that as it is.
What worries me in medicine is that, so, Katie said she did a bunch of transplants with me 10 years ago, and that's when I was doing a bunch of transplants. And obviously, as I become sort of more administrative and research-oriented and stuff, I'm less in the operating room, and that doesn't make me sad. That's what worries me about medicine. What worries me about medicine is that it's becoming progressively more irritating and frustrating and burdensome to take care of patients. And my colleagues who are winding down their clinical practices are like, I can't get out of this soon enough. Where 20 years ago, people would stay they would retire at 85 and come out of retirement at 86 because they were bored and it was so much fun to take care of people. I think that's a big problem, and I don't have great solutions for that.
Interesting, very interesting. Do you think humans will become cyborgs? We're seeing people now trying to implant stuff already. What's the future of that?
Yeah, I mean, I think we already are somewhat cyborgs, and as technology develops, we'll be able to, improve things. And right now, we are only in the replacement phase of things, right? Something that you had that was good, now no good, we replace it, right? But I think as that technology progresses, we will be able to improve things as well. And I think that would be really cool and cool opportunity.
What moves the needle in healthcare results, treatment, in the sort of medium term? Is it going to be a cure for cancer? Is it genetic engineering? Is it enhancing performance and health so that maybe you don't live 20 years longer, maybe it's only 5 years, but it's a better lifespan?
So I would say two totally opposite things. One is an awareness that we are self-murdering garbage eaters, okay? Really, we are so bad, and if we just fix that, so many things would go away. And then I think on the highly technological side is the recombinant technology and what we can do with CRISPR and similar technologies there.
What about challenges living in space? A lot of people are saying, hey, maybe we're messing up this planet, maybe now it's Mars, Elon Musk, the moon base. Do you think that is physiologically viable for people short term?
I think it's interesting, mostly for Hollywood. and for, you know, the things we learned from NASA, right? Like we learned from NASA the entire field of material science, right? So I think as we study what would happen to us if we went into space, we're going to learn a lot about physiology. It's the physiologic impact of people living outside of our immediate atmosphere has been shocking and weird. And I mean, you know, I don't think we're going to be like Skyping to our like village on the moon like in 10 years. But I think we learn cool things about physiology from the studies of it.
Two last questions. Does medicine, and this is non-denominational, because you hear both sides of it, that doctors feel like they're God, or that, hey, I got faith when I became a physician. Does it give you more or less faith?
You mean religious faith? Because like the last administration's given me way less faith about Congress, right? No, so I think, so that's an interesting question, right? Like how do you practice medicine and be religious, or how do you practice medicine and not be religious? I think there are two sides to this. One is that we learn, the more we learn about the ability of, for example, bacteria to evolve so rapidly, and then we think like 10 billion years, duh, clearly everything is evolved. Because we see it in like a month with the bacteria, then obviously if you had 10 billion years, you could evolve everything that you see here. The other thing is like, holy shit, this is complicated and cool, and like, there's a lot of stuff that just fits together really nicely, and like, how did that come about? And, you know, again, you got like, you either have like this faith, like, well, 10 billion years, man, that's a long time for all this stuff to come about, or like, there must be some other spiritual thing that did it. Either way is a leap of faith. Like, even thinking about the impact of 10 billion years of evolution is mind-blowing. Or the thought that, you know, there's something else out there that's kind of controlling this is also mind-blowing. But I would say that for the most part, most physicians, if religiously affiliated, are on the scientific side of the religious cafeteria.
No, absolutely, and it is unanswerable, but it's one of those interesting things that someone that's an expert, just what your thoughts are. Last question. Threats to humankind. We talk about superbugs. We talk about AI, we talk about, you know, maybe even aliens, or is it ourselves? I mean, there are pandemics not that long ago that wiped out, what, like, you know, a huge portion of the population. Now we're overprescribing the antibiotics so much that, you know, maybe some of these superbugs come back and they really knock people out, or a hard flu strain or whatnot. From a medical standpoint, what do you see as most potentially problematic?
I'm going to go back to that thing I said before. I think more problematic than antibiotic resistance, more problematic than some AI robot saying, I don't think I can let you do that, more problematic than, you know, all of the things that you listed there is what we do to ourselves. I think we are problematic. Look at like the obesity epidemic. We did this, you know. We have, the food we eat is horrible. The health behaviors that we have are horrible. And there's good science, you know, all of the network theory science out of Harvard, that these are epidemics, behaviors are epidemics. You can, you know, in the same way that we can, you know, modify somebody's kidney function, we can modify the way somebody eats and thinks about food and thinks about health behaviors, and I think that's the biggest problem. Now, if we talk globally, the biggest problem is, you know, lack of preventive care and, you know, lack of vaccines and things like that, because globally they don't have the money to live like we do in as dangerous of a way as we do. But I think, you know, in the developed world, I think us ourselves is the biggest threat to humanity.
Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Dorry Segev.